All right. Hello, hello, everyone. How are we today? What is going on? What's everybody up to? Let's see. Who's in the chat here? Janica. Janica, you've been right on track with everything lately. You seem to always be the first one in the chat there. So welcome. Good to see you guys. And Jenny, Mrs. Nosbig, Ellie, and Jenny. Oh, we got another Karen. Oh, a Karen from Vegas. I used to be a Karen from Vegas, but I'm not a Karen from Vegas anymore. But welcome. Let's see, Danielle and Coletta. You guys welcome. Thank you guys for joining us today. Just getting a couple of nails ready while we give everybody some time to jump in. Hopefully you guys are getting the notifications. Make sure that you are signed up and subscribe to our channel. I'm guessing most of you guys are that are here nice and early. Make sure that you guys are also signed up in our text community. Make sure that if for some reason you don't get the notification from YouTube, that you get the text message from us when we go live. So make sure that you sign up for that. And we will get started in just a second here. Just finishing up, getting a couple of nails ready. We're only going to do one nail, but I always like to have the hand full just in case if I need to show you guys something else. So, all right, let's go ahead and get our nail shortened up. Whenever I'm doing even practice nails, I always like to shorten up that free edge so I don't have all of that extra kind of bulk at the end there to worry about. So even though this is still just a trainer hand, I will always still go through and shorten that up. So whether it's a trainer hand or a real client's finger here, I always take down that free edge because it's going to make it a lot easier when we're working with forms, and even with tips. If you're working with tips, it'll make it a little bit easier to not have that extra length on that finger there, or on the nail. I guess we have the length on the finger, but not on the nail. All right, so let us go ahead and get jumping in here. And before I actually start on the nail, I'm going to show you all of the different products that we're going to be using today. And if you haven't heard me say this already, I always do post up on our Discord server. I post a little bit, usually in about an hour or so before we go live. I'll post all of the different products that we're going to be using for the day. So you can always jump onto, whoops, sorry guys, jump onto our Discord server if you want to maybe work along with me so that you can kind of plan ahead and get all of your stuff ready to go. But today we're going to be using just a few items, not a ton today, but we're still going to have a beautiful nail. We're going to be working with our acrylic, and we're going to be working with our traditional system today. And we've got our Speed Clear. And then the other acrylic that we have today is our Slick Pour. And you guys, Slick Pour is technically, as it shows on the label here, it's our dip powder system, but you can actually use these. They are an acrylic. They're just a really ultra fine acrylic powder. So you can use these as a colored acrylic. I just do a little swatch on them so I kind of know exactly what the color looks like. That little swatch doesn't come on the jars like that, but I just put those on there so you can kind of tell what they're going to look like. So you can see we've got a kind of a black metallic. Let me come in a little bit closer here. Actually, let me even open that up. So it's kind of a black metallic with a little bit of kind of that silver metallic in there. Okay, and this one is called, what is this one? Nocturnal Blitz. So you guys, if you're working with any of the Slick Pour powders, anything that has the word Blitz in it, that's going to indicate that there is glitter to it. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. If you are working with those Slick Pour powders, you're always going to know that it's got glitter in it if it says Blitz. So we've got that. We've got Crystal, which is another one of our glitters. This is just a straight glitter. And you guys, it's always hard to tell on camera, but this one is a multicolor. And I think on camera it probably shows up a little bit more just silvery, but it actually really is a multicolor. Let me see if I can get it a little close, if that's going to help. Now, unfortunately, it just shows kind of that silver in there, but I guarantee you guys it is a multicolored glitter. It's just a really ultra fine glitter. Okay, so we've got Crystal, and then our other glitter that we're going to be using today. You guys, today's design is a New Year's Eve design. So a New Year's design that you can wear out to those New Year's Eve parties. If you got a little black dress that you're wearing, that little black dress is going to go great with that Nocturnal Blitz color that we've got here. And then you guys, this one is called NASA Fan Boi. But I love this one for New Year's Eve because to me, it just looks like the confetti that they drop when the ball drops and all of that. So it's just a beautiful, super sparkly, multicolor, lots of great different colors in there. Absolutely love this one. I think it's going to be super, super fun. Whoops, and I'm just going to spill things all over the place. But that's all right, just makes everything nice and pretty. All right, so again, that was NASA Fan Boi, Nocturnal Blitz, and Crystal are the colors that we're using today. And our Speed Clear, we've got that one out here. All right, let me just take away this little bit of extra glitter sprinkle here so we got a nice clean place to work on. And that way I don't make a mess with all of that extra glitter. All right, so we are, like I said, we're going to be doing a New Year's Eve kind of a nail today. Let me readjust you here. And we're going to go ahead and start our prep. So we're going to do our prep just like we always do, pushing back those cuticles, get those good and cleaned up. If you're working on a full set, make sure that you do everything all the way through, all 10 nails. Come back, do your second hand, but all the way through all 10 nails. That way it's going to help you with your speed. I think a lot of times when people, you know, they ask us questions as to how do I get faster? You guys, first of all, when you're just starting out, you're not going to work fast, okay? You're still trying to figure out your techniques. You're trying to figure out, you know, maybe how to hold the nail, position the nail, all of those different kind of things. So your speed really, first of all, comes with practice and repetition, okay? So when you're working, always get into that habit of doing the same thing all the way through, whether you're practicing on the trainer hand or whether you're working on a real person. Always practice all of those steps, because the more you practice those steps, the more you're going to get into a routine, and you're always just going to know what's going to happen next. So that way you don't even have to think about it. So I just, kind of automatically grabbed my electric file. So after I pushed back those cuticles, I grabbed my electric file, and I'm going to put, right now, I've got an old sanding band. I'm going to grab a clean mandrel here. So I'm going to put my mandrel in. And the mandrel itself doesn't actually have any grit to it, so you're not going to really file or anything with that mandrel, but we are going to put in a clean sanding band. And I always show you guys, make sure that you're always working with a new clean sanding band. So this way, first of all, you're always going to keep your clients nice and safe. Whoops. Even if you're working on a trainer hand, still grab a brand new one, okay? So you always want to make sure that you've got that new sanding band on there so you've got good grit to it. And I always like to show you guys, an old bit like this has kind of worn down. You can see how that kind of that white grit has started to wear down. So with a brand new bit, you're going to have that really good grit that you're going to be able to file with. Okay, so always change that out. Now you saw I was trying to push that sanding band on there, and I can only push so far and it kind of stops. So what I'm going to do, let me bring the camera out. I'm just going to hold my handpiece kind of in the palm of my hand. I'm not going to put pressure on my cord. I'm just going to turn that handpiece and just press that bit all the way back down on there, okay? Now notice that I did have my bit down into that handpiece. I didn't have it all the way up here, because if I were to go and press down and put pressure here, it's actually going to push the bit back down in there, and you want to make sure that you're not pushing or pulling that bit in or out while it's locked, okay? Because if you do that, if you were to push that down in there, it's going to start to kind of strip out the mechanism that holds that bit in nice and tight. So if you need to press that sanding band on, make sure open up, unlock that bit, close it back up, and then you can press that back down, okay? All right, let's go ahead and remove our shine. I'm going to turn my E-file on to about 5,000 RPMs. I always say low and slow, and we're going to work right around our cuticle area. So just right up around, and I'm just kind of doing short little circular type motions all the way up, all the way around. When I get to that top left corner, I'm going to start to feather my bit, and just gently working from one direction here all the way through the whole length of the nail. Now when I say one direction, what I mean, it's not the boy band, you guys, I know, but what I mean by one direction is as you're removing that shine, you're working from, I'm right-handed, so I'm working from right to left. So I'm coming across the nail and picking up my bit. Across the nail, pick up the bit. Across the nail, pick up the bit. Now, as I work, I am working a little bit quicker, so it looks like maybe I'm keeping that bit on the nail, but I'm not. I actually just come across, pick up, across, pick up, across, pick up. The reason for that is that if you keep the bit on the nail and just kind of start to grind away at the nail, A, it's going to cause damage. You're going to take off too much of that natural nail. And B, it's going to start to kind of build up heat. So you always want to make sure you're working in one direction and picking up that bit as you work, okay? So just a couple of helpful hints, making sure that we stay safe, we keep our clients safe. And then we'll grab our manicure brush, dust off that nail, get all of that dust off of that, clean that off as good as we possibly can, and then we'll use our swipe. So let me bring my camera out. Swipe is our cleanser. This is what is going to remove any extra dust, maybe that didn't quite come off with our brush here. It's going to help to remove any germs, any bacteria, and any extra moisture that's on the nail. So when we remove the shine, we're really trying to basically break up the oils in the surface. And then by using that swipe on the nail, that swipe is going to really pull out the extra oils that are in that nail surface. So then after using that swipe, we're going to notice that that nail is going to start to look nice and clean and dry. And that's a good indicator that your nail is properly prepped. If you see shiny spots, I know you guys, you can kind of see just a tiny little bit right up by that cuticle. That's okay. We're not actually putting product that close onto the skin. So that tiny little bit of shine right around there is okay. But if you see shine kind of right through the body of the nail, then you may want to go through that one more time, okay? You also want to make sure that you don't see any spots that are still wet from that swipe before you go on to the next step. So our next step is our protein bond. Protein bond is our bonder. It's our anchor. I always say it's, I always say it's either our anchor or it works like a double-sided tape. But really that's exactly what the protein bond does, is that now we have a nice clean dry surface. When we put that protein bond on, it's going to leave us a sticky surface, and that sticky surface is what's going to grab onto our acrylic, or if we're working on with gel, it's going to grab onto the gel and it's going to anchor it. So it's really a great product to help keep all of your enhancements on the nail. And I'm going to go in with 2 coats of this, really just to make sure that I've got great even coverage and I'm going to have really good adhesion. Now notice that I do start in the center of the nail and kind of work out to the sides and then work back up to that cuticle area. I don't just flood my product right at that cuticle, okay? Like I said, you guys, this works like an anchor. So wherever you put your protein bond, that's where it's going to pull your product. And if you get that protein bond all the way up and kind of flooded into that cuticle, that's where it's going to pull your product and kind of flood your product. And you don't want that because that's going to kind of start to lead to lifting, okay? So make sure that you're not flooding that cuticle area. Make sure that you're not over applying your protein bond. And also make sure to subscribe to our channel as we're talking about things that you should make sure you're doing. So I'm going to grab my forms while you guys are hitting that subscribe button. And today we are going to use the extra long forms. Now you guys, you can do this design in a shorter version. You can use the shorter, just our regular standard forms, but I feel like, okay, it's the holidays, it's New Year's coming up, we're gonna celebrate a little bit, so we're gonna do a nice long extension here today. So we're gonna take our form, and again, you know what, let me just show you really quick here. Let me grab one of our blue forms just so you can kind of see the difference. A little bit of difference in the shaping, a little bit of difference in the structure of these forms. So if we take a look here, oops, let me turn that one off. There we go. So you can definitely see that the red and orange forms, to me, they kind of look just like a fiery form. I love it. They're kind of fiery. I guess we got fire and ice going on here. We got our fiery long ones and we've got our icy shorter ones here. I don't know. Kind of just a random thought of the day there. But the red ones, you're going to notice have a little bit more, let me come in, they have a little bit more of kind of an elongated edge right through here, whereas the standard ones have a little bit of more of a shallow, kind of a rounded edge. So just because this is an extra long form doesn't mean that we have to use it just for extra long nails. You can use this form if your client has a little bit more of an extended hyponychium. It's going to fit a little bit better under there. And you can also customize your forms too, you guys. We've got over 3,000 different videos here on our YouTube channel, and we've got some great videos on how to customize your forms. So if you're struggling with putting your forms on, check out some of those videos and you'll see how to make that a little bit easier. But again, we're going to go with our long form today so that we can create a beautiful, beautiful long extension. All right, so we are going to peel that form off the back. And as somebody, let's see, Crystal Glitterbug says, I love the upside down Yoda head. And here's our upside down Yoda head, or I like to call it the little dancing ghost. So take that little dancing ghost out of the center there. You're going to stick that right onto the back of the form. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight or anything like that. You can see mine's a little bit crooked. That's totally fine. So the reason that we want to put that on the back, though, is that it's just going to give our form a little bit more firmness, a little bit more durability when we pinch this, okay? And speaking of pinching, what we're going to do is we're going to take that form, kind of curve it around, and we're going to pinch. So we've got a couple of tabs here. We've got the orange tab on the end and then the red and orange tab in the center. We're going to pinch those two tabs together nice and evenly, as even together as you can get those. And then just going to kind of pinch through kind of the body of that form all the way down to the end. And we're going to be working on a stiletto. Now, you guys, I'm not going to create quite that long of a stiletto, but we're going to do a nice long stiletto. So if you wanted to do a complete long stiletto, you've got those lines on the side of your form, and those are going to help you to kind of create that structure. Now, the red lines on here, you guys can kind of see there's red lines on there. Those are for creating those the stiletto shapes and even the coffin shapes. But if you're working and doing a square nail, you're going to use more of those white lines, or I can't tell, I think there may be silver lines, but they look white on camera there. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind as you're working. Again, if you're creating a stiletto, make sure that you're pinching that form together at the end. I'm going to set this one aside. If you're doing a square nail, you want to leave that end open. So let me just show you here really quick. Again, stick your little dancing ghost on the back there. Pinch those tabs together. And again, if you're working on a square nail or kind of a pipe nail, leave that end open just a little bit, okay? So that way now you can kind of use those silver lines as your guide for those straight edges, okay? So just a slight difference, a slight variation when you're working with a stiletto shape versus a square or a pipe nail, okay? So today we are going to be doing a stiletto. So I'm going to open up that top little perforation there. We're going to pinch this down just a little bit. Like I said, I'm not going to do quite such a crazy long nail here. You guys, if you want to, you definitely go ahead and do your long stilettos. Make sure if you are posting them on social media that you tag us, because I want to see what you guys are working on and what you're creating. So make sure you do that. Okay, we're going to get our form up under the nail, and I'm going to start at just a slight downward angle. Catch that form right up underneath our free edge, and then we're just going to lift up on the end. So as we're lifting up, that form is just going to kind of tuck right up underneath that free edge. Make sure that it's going on there straight, but it's just going to kind of tuck right up underneath that free edge. Now I'm going to secure this down, and I want to show you guys a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to turn that finger. I want to make sure that my form is nice and straight. It looks like it's a little bit lopsided, so I'm going to open up on the sides here. I'm going to shift that over, just kind of shimmy that right back up underneath that nail. Whoops, and making sure that that form is nice and straight. Now, here's something that I'm going to share with you guys. I always tell you when you're putting your forms on, make sure that that form comes straight out from that natural nail. Now, when you're working on these long stilettos like this, do you notice that my form does look slightly angled downward? Okay, there is a purpose for that. All right, so when you're working on long stilettos, I do just slightly angle that form down, okay? It's not 100% straight out, but it's not going at kind of a, complete downward angle where we're gonna get a little bird beak on our nail. But what I want you guys to notice is how the light reflects on this form. Let me just kind of readjust just a little bit. I'm just kind of pinching together underneath so that my C curve is going to be really nice and tight. But do you see how the light reflects from here all the way, all the way to the point of the nail? That light reflection is our guide, okay? So if we look at our form, that light reflection is going to come straight out from our sides. It's not going to be angling downward, and it's not going to be angling upward, okay? Let me show you what happens when you put a form straight on when you're working on a long extension like this. So I'm going to grab that other form that I worked with. We're going to pinch that together. Now, if we put, let me open that back up. If we put this form on straight out, there we go, it's coming straight out. And we pinch that. Now take a look at that light reflection. It's actually going at a slight upward angle, and what's going to happen is our nail is going to end up kind of going up a little bit at the end, and we're not going to get the proper structure. So that's why when I'm working on these longer stiletto nails, I will actually take that form and, just like I was showing you before, angle it down just slightly, okay? Not a lot, but just enough so that that light reflection is going to come straight out from that lower arch, okay? I hope that makes sense. You guys, let me know in the chat. Did that make sense? Is that something that you think is going to help you when you're doing those nice long stiletto nails? Let me know in the chat. I would love to know what you guys are thinking here today. All right, I'm going to, again, let's pinch this one a little bit shorter. Gonna pinch again underneath there, really making sure that I've got a nice tight curve under that nail, making sure my form is nice and straight. All right, now here's the thing. When I pinch my form a little bit shorter like this, I actually don't like having this extra kind of edge on my form. So I'll just grab my little scissors here, and I'm just gonna snip off that end just to make life a little bit easier. So when I'm working and trying to balance, I'm not gonna bump into that edge or that end of the form, okay? So just a quick little hint there. All right, we got our form on. We are ready to sculpt this nail, so let's get into it. I'm gonna grab, what am I gonna grab here? Grab our monomer. Let me come back out here real quick. I'm gonna grab my glitters. I'm gonna grab my slick pour powder, and I'm gonna grab my speed clear. So all of these different things that we're going to be using today. The first thing that we're going to do, though, is we're going to create a free edge with our crystal glitter. So crystal glitter bug, not crystal glitter bug, but just crystal, our crystal glitter. And I'm going to grab one of our, just a small little Dappen dish here. So I'm going to mix our speed acrylic with a little bit of that crystal glitter. And when you're working with acrylic and you're mixing your acrylic, you kind of want to keep in mind the ratio 3 to 1, okay? So 3 parts acrylic to 1 part glitter. Now, I'm not going to mix a whole entire container of this. I'm really going to just do 1 scoop of my acrylic. If you're doing a full set, you definitely want to mix a little bit more, but because I'm just doing 1 nail, you know what, maybe you guys, I think maybe I'll mix 2 scoops, okay? So 2 scoops of my acrylic. So 2 scoops of acrylic. Now, how many scoops of our glitter do we need? So if we need a third, so 1/3, sorry you guys, let me say that over. 3 parts acrylic to 1 part glitter. Okay, so we've got 2 scoops of acrylic already in there. Now we actually need about 2/3 of a scoop of our glitter. So that's going to give us the proper consistency. So we're going to take our glitter, mix that in. We're going to just stir that up, mix that up really well. And the crystal glitter is really just going to give just a light shimmer, okay? It's not going to be a super bold color, just a light shimmer. So let me grab a couple of little table towels here, and I'm going to do a quick swatch for you guys so you can kind of see what this is looking like. And this is what I usually do when I mix glitters. I always take just a really quick swatch of it so I can kind of see how it's looking, how it's turning out. Do I feel like it's a good consistency? Do I feel like it has enough glitter to it? Not enough glitter? Now you can start to kind of see a little bit more of that color in there. But I think that's going to be good. I think it's got enough glitter to it to where it's going to create the color and the sparkle that I want. And it still feels like it's a good consistency. I still can pick up a really good, a good pearl with the correct consistency, the correct liquid to powder. So that one's going to be good. So let's go ahead and close up my glitter, set that off to the side so I don't spill things. As you guys know, I spill things. And I actually, so that monomer that I had in my Dappen dish here, that was from a little bit earlier. I was kind of working through some design ideas today. So that's my old monomer. I'm going to just take one of my table towels, clean off my Dappen dish, and soak up that old monomer. I always want to start with fresh, clean monomer so that I'm going to have really good, proper consistency to my acrylic pearls when I pick those up. And I don't have any miscellaneous glitters or anything that I don't want in the nail. So always start with clean, fresh monomer. I'm going to grab my monomer here. We'll pour some in there. And we'll come back out there a little bit. So I'm going to take my brush, touch my brush to the top of my bottle, and I'm just going to pour straight down that bottle. And you guys, I always show this trick because I think it's such a great, easy technique that helps you to not spill your monomer. So you can see nothing dribbling, nothing dripping down the side of the jar. And just keeps everything nice and clean. All right, so we are going to start with that mixture. And let's make sure you guys can see everything here. We got our glitter, we got our powders. Okay, so I am going to pick up a pearl of our glitter mixture here. And I actually want to pick up a pretty good size because I'm going to create an extension from that free edge all the way to the end of my form. So I want to make sure that I've got a good amount of product on my brush. So when I pick up my liquid, I'm not going to completely drain out that brush. If I drain out too much liquid, I'm going to end up with a really dry pearl that's going to set up pretty quickly. So I'm just going to give it a quick one tap, and then we'll come into our powder. We're going to press, bounce, bounce. I'm going to take that pearl, just drain out a little bit more of that extra liquid and set that down at that free edge. This way, I have a little bit more of a clay-like consistency, and my product isn't going to run or flow down the length of my form. It's not going to run down to the sides. I can use my brush to press that out, walk that up to the edge, kind of tuck in that edge, and now I'm going to use some more pressure with my brush and start to kind of pull that down the length of my form. Using the edge of my brush to clean up those sides, but still pulling that bulk of my product, that kind of thicker part of my product, down the length of my form. Always just kind of working back and forth, so from one side to the other. This way it's going to help to keep everything kind of the same thickness all the way through. So from side to side, all the way through down to the end. And you guys, I'm only bringing my product down to where I pinched the end of my form. I'm not bringing it all the way down to that edge, but just right down to where I pinched the end of my form. Okay, so again, using the side of my brush to kind of tuck in those edges a little bit more, get everything nice and straight and even. Let's check our other side here. Same thing on that other side, just kind of tucking in, getting that straight and even. So now I'm just kind of pressing all the way through, walking my brush all the way from one side to the other. Again, making sure that everything is fairly even all the way across, okay? Just gonna kind of smooth that out, see if I can kind of taper everything off just a little bit more. And I think we're looking good. Now, at this point, I'm gonna pick up a small pearl of just my regular speed clear. And what I'm gonna do with this, I'm gonna set this, just that very small, fairly wet pearl, I'm going to set that right onto that natural nail, kind of give it a little bit of a press out, and then I'm going to blend that right over that free edge. And all I'm doing with this is just making a thin layer to kind of protect that natural nail. So we're going to be putting some color and some glitter over this whole nail. So I want to have that little bit of a layer of clear underneath so that when I go to change out my designs, I can file my color off and I can file down to this layer of clear without actually filing down and causing damage onto that natural nail. Now, one thing I want to kind of point out here is, I don't know if you guys noticed this or not, but I didn't actually bring that pearl all the way back to the cuticle area. I don't want to have a lot of thickness back there, okay? I wanted to keep it very thin, and I just kind of pressed out and kind of tapered out the back of that pearl so that I really just have a very, very thin layer, okay? So when we're doing a design like we're going to be doing, we're going to actually be fading color onto this nail, and we're going to be using those kind of bigger, chunkier glitters. So when you're keeping those up around that cuticle area, you want to get those down, flush down to that natural nail as close as possible so you can keep your product nice and thin without filing away that glitter. Okay, so that's kind of why I really wanted to make sure that my application back there was very, very thin. Okay, we're going to kind of let this set up just a little bit. And in the meantime, we are going to mix our next glitter mix. And again, this was NASA Fan Boi. And I absolutely love this color. I know that I said this earlier, but I absolutely love this color because it is so colorful. It's like, you guys, it looks like a sequins dress. So those of you that are getting all dressed up for New Year's, this is going to be your go-to glitter. And you guys, I guarantee you on camera does not do it justice. But how pretty is all of that? Throw some stars in the chat, you guys, if you're loving this glitter, because I love it. So, all right. But let's go ahead and get this one mixed up. So same thing as we did before. We are going to create our glitter mixture. And again, we're going to do 3-to-1 ratio. We're actually going to just do 2 scoops of our powder. So 1 scoop, 2 scoops, and then we're going to do 2/3 scoop of our glitter. It looks about 2/3. Close enough, you guys, maybe just a little bit more. And that again is why I always check my consistency to make sure that I have a good consistency, that I have enough acrylic, I have enough glitter, and I have everything how I want it. All right, so good and mixed up there. Awesome, you guys. I'm seeing lots of love in the chat, and I appreciate that so much. So thank you guys for chatting with me. I love to see that. Love to know that you guys are paying attention. Okay, so as we were mixing our glitter combination here, our extension has started to set up. Now I'm kind of feeling it. It feels a little bit spongy. It's not wet and tacky anymore, but it isn't completely solid. So I'm actually going to come in and I'm going to pinch that C-curve just a little bit more to really make sure that I've got a nice tight C-curve to that nail. When you're working on these long extensions and the really tight stiletto nails, you really want to make sure that you get that C-curve pinched in. Now, I'm using my 2 pointer fingers here, you guys. You can use your 2 pointers, your middles, your rings, even your 2 thumbs. What I don't recommend is doing that pinch with your pointer and your thumb. You see how kind of offset my fingers are? Excuse me. If I'm using my pointer and my thumb, I'm putting more pressure up here and more pressure down here, and it's going to get kind of squished and lopsided. If you use those 2 fingers, so your pointer finger and your pointer finger, you can come in and completely press, and you're going to get that really nice even pinch all the way through that free edge. Now, if I was working on a shorter nail, a lot of times I just use kind of the pads of my fingers right up top here. Let me come in a little closer. But when I'm working on those stilettos, I actually use a good amount of my whole finger here. So that way I can really get that nice even pinch all the way through. Okay? So now you can guys see we got that really nice pinch. We've got that really nice tight point all the way to the end. We got that little bit of sparkle in there. So let's come in with, we're actually going to come back to our, let's see, Nocturnal Blitz. So this is that black kind of metallic kind of a color, that little bit of silver sparkle in there. And we're going to blend a little bit of this just right through kind of that stress area and then just down a little bit onto our extension. So this is going to just give us that little bit of that, you know, that little black dress kind of a vibe. I love this color. It's so fun. So we're going to pick up our pearl. Now this one, I'm going to drain out just a little bit more of the liquid because I don't need a huge pearl on this one, because we're going to keep this very thin and we're going to blend it. I'm going to keep it wet. I'm not going to drain out the liquid, so I'm going to set that right down kind of at that seam, right where that natural nail and my free edge connect. I'm going to tap out the back of it just so it kind of blends a little bit. I'm not really trying to create a perfect ombre or anything like that, but here's where I will. I'll just kind of blend, kind of pull that, kind of just that edge of that bead, just kind of blending that down, blend that down, blend that down. We're not going to pull this all the way to the end of our nail. We're just creating kind of an ombre effect. So just kind of blending through, getting that to ombre out however we want to. And again, you can kind of tap out that backside if you want to a little bit more, but I'm not really super concerned. I just didn't want a straight ledge right in the back. So by blending this out, when we put our next pearl on, it's going to kind of flow together a little bit more, okay? So we're going to switch back over to that glitter mixture that we created. And you guys make sure if you're enjoying our lesson here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're learning something, hit that subscribe button. Join our community here. We'd love to have you part of it. All right, let's pick up a pearl of that glitter mixture, keeping it again fairly wet. I do want this to blend a little bit. I'm going to just kind of press that down. And you guys, this is the reason that I didn't want my cuticle area fairly thick at all. I wanted to keep it nice and thin so that I've got plenty of room for that glitter. Now we're just going to blend out the edge of the glitter and get that to kind of flow down into our black color. Just kind of blending that just so those little pieces of New Year's Eve glitter, New Year's Eve confettis kind of blend right in. And you know what, guys? I'm actually going to grab my loose glitter here and just take a couple of pieces of those, just dipping my brush in there, and I'm just going to kind of set those down into that wet acrylic. So the reason I'm doing this is because I've got a couple of areas that glitter just didn't quite cover, and I wanted to have just a little bit more sparkle right in the back, a little bit more coverage. So I just set that little bit of loose glitter down into the wet, uncured glitter, okay? So that was the reason that I just grabbed a little bit of that. Now, if you feel like maybe you want to add a little bit more through here, you can come in and take that loose glitter, same thing I just did, grab a little bit of that Speed Clear. So just picking up, just picking up a tiny little pearl, tiny little pearl, keeping that wet, just kind of blend through there. And again, you can just touch your brush to those little glitters, pick up a few and add a few more if you want a little bit more sparkle anywhere. Okay, so you can always add a little bit more, just kind of layering it in, but keep that thin pearl of acrylic very thin, very wet, just enough to kind of wet the surface again. Okay. All right, I think we're looking good here. So I'm actually going to close up my glitters, put those off to the side. I'm going to close up my acrylic here so that I don't get anything into those. I don't spill them. I don't contaminate them. And we'll go ahead and finish our overlay on this nail. Because if you guys take a look, okay, we don't have a whole lot of structure. Now we've got a little bit of bulk right up through this area, but we don't have any structure right through the free edge here. And we want to cap our glitter and our color fade, all of that up here so that we don't end up filing all of that off. If you were to just leave this nail, maybe if you put clear or made this a little thicker here and you just went to file, you're going to file all of that glitter off. So make sure that you do cap all of your glitter applications like this, okay? All right, so let's grab our Speed Clear again. And you guys, as you're working, you can probably continue to press in that C-curve because we did that free edge so thin. It's going to take a good while for it to actually cure fully, but you can kind of, it has a little bit more flexibility to it. So as you're working, if you feel like you need to, you can still pinch in that C-curve a little bit. All right, we're going to grab a pearl of our Speed Clear. We're going to wait 1, 2, 3 to 4 seconds before we place that onto that cuticle area. And the reason that I wait is just for that product to slightly start to polymerize, slightly start to set up. So it's not going to completely run all over the place, but it's not going to be too firm either. Okay, so just a couple of seconds before we place that down. Now I'm just going to kind of blend that out all the way through. Okay. Now, again, all we did was apply our product back through here. We still have structure to create through here. Okay. So we're going to pick up another pearl. And you guys, when you're working with the long stilettos, you may feel like you want to pick up a super large pearl. Let me show you here, you guys. So if I pick up a really, really large pearl, something like that, I can definitely place that onto the nail and work with it. Personally, I like to work in smaller pearls so that I get the correct structure without adding too much product. So I'm going to pick up kind of a medium-sized pearl. So about that. I'm going to just drain a little bit of the liquid out. I'm going to turn my brush around and set it basically right in front of that pearl that we just blended out. I'm going to blend that product back up, and then I'm going to take my brush and start to press that out and just start to kind of blend down the end of the nail. So this way I'm really starting to create the proper structure without having too much product. And as I'm blending towards the end to get that nice flow. Okay, you can start to see I don't have that little dip down anymore. I have a little bit of a low spot right through here, but it's just kind of flowing all the way down to the end. Okay. And are some people saying in the chat that it looks big, it looks bulky? You guys, yes, it does, but don't worry, we're going to file this. Okay, but here's the thing, you guys, you do want to make sure that you have enough thickness, especially when you're working on stiletto nails. Okay, stilettos are very long and they need to be in balance. And I'm going to show you something here really quick. I just put one more little pearl right on the end here to make sure that I've got everything capped. I've got that free edge structure proper in there. I'm just going to kind of blend that back. And then I'm going to show you why we do want to make this stiletto nail just a little bit thicker than, say, a shorter nail. Okay. All right. So we've got our structure in there. We'll let that set up a little bit. And I'm going to show you something here. First of all, let me close up my liquids and powders here to make sure that, again, I don't contaminate anything. So just kind of cleaning out my brush a little bit. I will set that over where it's nice and clean. Cap my liquid, cap my powder. Okay, so you guys, here's the thing. When you are creating, especially longer nails, but even shorter nails need it too, you need to create balance of this nail. So let me see if I can come up. So I always show my teeter-totter scenario. So if you think about the teeter-totter, and those of you guys that know exactly what a teeter-totter is, you're probably my same age range here. But the teeter-totter is, it's one of those things that are out on the playground. Somebody sits on this end and somebody sits on this end, and you kind of bounce back and forth like that. When one person is heavier than the other, so if the person on this end is heavier than the person on this end, the pressure is going to go here. Okay, that person is going to kind of bounce down to the ground while this person flies up in the air. You guys with me? Anybody, let me know in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. Put a little thumbs up in the chat if you know what a teeter-totter is. But it's the same thing with a nail. So when you're looking at shaping and structure and length, you want to make sure that this side is balanced with this side. If you have more weight on this end, then this side is going to go up. There's going to be more pressure on this end, okay? Stick with me here, you guys. There's a moral to this. There's a method to the madness. So if you have your natural nail, so if your natural nail is this length and your free edge, your extension is this length, you're balanced, okay? Because there's the same weight on this side as there is on this side. Now, if you have a nail, say maybe a nail biter, where the nail bed itself or the nail body itself is short, and you've got this really long extension, where's that pressure going? It's going at that free edge. So this way is going to be unbalanced. It's going to start to have more of a tendency to want that, to make that product at that cuticle area over here lift because there's too much weight on that free edge, okay? So same thing, when you have this really long stiletto, this is our nail body, okay? So if we come in here, if we just had a flat nail, we didn't have anything built up here, if we just had that really flat nail, all of that pressure is going to go this length all of that pressure is going to go on that free edge. It's going to put pressure on that free edge, and it's going to want to make that cuticle area lift, just like on our little teeter-totter here, on our seesaw, those of you that are saying seesaw. So with that long extension, it's going to put the pressure here and have more prone to lifting if you don't balance, okay? And what we're doing here with our structure is we're balancing. So we're building up a little bit more thickness back here to have a little more pressure back towards that cuticle area and less pressure on the free edge, okay? So that's going to help to balance. We also have to make sure that our stress area is a little thicker, because the stress area right through here, that thickest area right through here, this is where all of that pressure is going to go if maybe that client jams her nail into something. So if she hits her nail on something, all of that pressure is going to go right through that stress area. So that's why we have to make it a little bit thicker back here. We can't just have that completely flat surface. We can't have a flat nail. We have to have something that's going to be a little thicker here to support and to absorb that impact. Okay, so let me know, did that make sense? Put a little heart in the chat if that made sense. I love to see those hearts, so let me know if that made sense. Okay, yes, somebody says, okay, but not that thick. I know, we're gonna file, don't worry, we're gonna file. So at this point, our nail is set, it's cured out. I'm gonna take that form off. I'm gonna pinch that together, pull that form off, and we'll go ahead and grab our dust collector. And bring that in there. Awesome. Looks like I'm seeing some hearts in the chat. That makes me know that you guys are learning something and that it is making sense to you. So that makes me very happy. All right, I'm going to grab back to our e-file here. I'm going to switch out my bits because I definitely don't want to try to file down the bulk with my sanding band. This sanding band is designed to smooth out the nail. It is not designed to take down bulk, and we would be here forever if we tried to use that. So I'm going to use instead our X-Cut carbide. So you guys, you can definitely see the difference. Let me show you here. Difference between the grit on our sanding band. Sanding band is a lot more like just your regular hand files, whereas that X-Cut carbide, you can see it's got some teeth to it. It's got some grit. So that's actually designed to shave down your product rather than just smoothing it. So all of this extra bulk we're going to shave down, and we're going to create the proper structure to our nail. Now, I'm going to show you one other thing here. When we were prepping that natural nail, again, we were using the sanding band, but the bit was all the way into our hand piece. When you are working with these longer nails, especially these long stilettos, you want to move that bit out a little bit, because as we're filing, what's going to happen is we're going to be filing down the arch of this nail. And if you had that bit all the way in, as you're working and you're getting to about here, you're not going to be able to bring that bit to the proper angle without this part of your hand piece bumping into that nail. So you want to bring that bit out a little ways, and then you can lock that into place. And it'll make sense as we're filing here. Okay, I'm going to turn my dust collector on. We're going to crank that up to 10. I'm going to turn my e-file on, and we're going to bring that up to about 15,000 RPMs. Okay, so we're going to just start by straightening out our sidewalls. Just going to pull down on the left side here, just tapering that in, and then I'm going to push back on my right side. So just cleaning up those sides, making sure everything is a little bit more straight. Now, am I going to try to make this 100% perfect? Not with my e-file. My e-file is just for taking down the bulk and refining as much as we can. We're going to do our finished filing by hand, but we're taking down bulk here. Now we're going to come through our sidewall here, and actually I'm going to start on my other side, because my other side, there's a little bit more hanging down on my free edge here that I want to get out of the way before I work on my right side here. So you can start on either side. And I'm going to take that bulk down so that my lower arch here is coming straight out from that natural nail. Okay, so now you guys can start to see it's coming straight out, just kind of pulling down. And you guys, a lot of times I use really the whole, let me turn this off, turn that off for just a second. I really sometimes use the whole top surface of my bit when I'm coming underneath that nail. So we're coming in here like that. And I'm not just coming in at an angle like this. I'm actually turning my bit and using that whole top part of the bit to take that product down, okay? Let's give that another try here. So again, pulling straight down. We'll go to that other side. So on the other side here, we're gonna push back to clean all of that up. Now notice I'm not trying to get all the way back up into that corner. At this point, I don't need to. All I'm trying to do is, again, take down the bulk. And I don't want to come into that corner and accidentally nick my client's skin. So that's why I stay a little ways away from that. But you can now see that my sidewall, that lower arch, is really starting to come straight out from that natural nail, okay? Okay, we're gonna now take down, see all of that bulk that we don't need? That's what we're gonna work on now. Now I'm gonna start by working a little bit through my cuticle area here. I actually have a pretty tapered cuticle area, so I don't have to do too much work around there, but I am gonna come through just to kind of taper that down just a little bit. We may come back to that area once we get a little bit more of this bulk down, but I'm gonna start right in the center of the nail. You guys, I'm not trying to come all the way, if I turn this on the side, I'm not trying to come all the way from one side all the way to the other. I'm trying to just work down the arch, just taking down as much of that product as I feel like I need to create the proper structure, okay? So you're starting to see, it's starting to take down that bulk. It's starting to look a little bit more tapered. I'm just gonna kind of flow my bit all the way down to the end and then maybe work back a little bit more here to come all the way back. Now you guys, do you see how as I'm getting into here, my hand piece right here is getting awful close to running into that nail, but because I have that little bit of extra length right through here, it's not getting in the way. So I can still work without that hand piece bumping into my nail. All right, I think we're looking pretty good here. Starting to get that proper structure, looking good. I'm gonna turn that nail and now we're gonna look straight down the barrel here. Let me adjust my camera so you guys can see a little better. So when I'm working on my stilettos, you guys, you can see there's definitely some bulk up here. I don't have quite as much bulk right through that extension, so I'm just gonna kind of work right through this area. So right through this area here is where I'm gonna take down bulk on the sides. I'm not gonna worry about my free edge part just yet, okay? Hope that made sense, but you'll see here in just a second. So again, just kind of working through those sides, taking down that bulk, thinning that out a little bit. Come back over to my right side, take down a little bit more on the right side here, pulling through. And then I'm gonna just come all the way up and over. So I'm gonna start kind of on the left side, all the way up, all the way over to my right side. And you see how as I'm working, the barrel of the bit, let me show you, actually I'm gonna turn this off here so you guys can see a little bit better. So as I'm working on my right side, I'm using more of the base of the bit through here. Then I'm gonna come up into more of the top of the nail, use more of the middle part of my bit. And then when I get back down to the left side, I'm using more of the top of the bit. So I'm not trying to just use the top of the bit all the way through. You're gonna get a much easier and more even contour of the nail by using all of those different areas of the bits, okay? All right, so once we have kind of the bulk taken down from this area here, then I can flow my bit all the way through, all the way down to the end of the nail. This way, everything is gonna start to come together nice and even, and everything is gonna get really smooth. Okay? But I always start kind of with that bulky area when I'm working on those stilettos, because this tends to be, yeah, you know, you guys got the wide hips. That's kind of what I say this area is here. It's the wide hips. So we want to take all of the, those wide hips down, and then we can taper down into that free edge more. All right, so just pulling my bit all the way through, trying to contour everything, getting everything nice and even. And I am going to turn and look from the side view one more time. So you guys can now really start to see I've got that really nice flowing arch, but I just want to make sure, especially around that cuticle area, everything is right where it should be. And I think we're looking good, okay? All right. I'm going to switch now. We're going to go from that X-Cut carbide. We're going to switch back to our sanding band, and I'm going to use the sanding band to just refine a little bit more. So I'm going to turn my e-file back on, but we're going to turn the speed down to about 7,000 RPMs. And I'm going to come now up around the cuticle. So I'm really just basically following the same exact pattern that I did before. Clean up that cuticle area and get that cuticle nice and thin and tapered. By using our sanding band here, I'm going to be able to get right up into that cuticle area without it injuring my client or cutting. The sanding band is a very gentle bit, so it's not going to cut that cuticle. Still want to be careful, but it's going to be very safe around that cuticle area for thinning and tapering. Okay? We're going to come and just kind of flow all the way through that arch, just like I did before. And you guys notice that once I started getting into that free edge down here, I use my finger for a little bit of pressure on that nail bed or on that nail body area. Go back to our little seesaw, our little teeter-totter demonstration that I showed you guys earlier. Same kind of thing, putting pressure here so I'm not putting extra pressure on that free edge, okay? So always keep that balance in mind. All right, let's check this one more time from the free edge. Smooth that out a little bit more. And I know that there's some of you that are saying, well, why aren't you just going into the hand file? And you guys, you could, if you didn't want to do these steps with the electric file, you could go right to your hand file. But personally, I feel like hand filing is a lot more work. So I always try to do as much filing as I can with my electric file, and then I'll go back and refine with my hand file. So you can see, let me come in a little closer. We've got a good amount of our shaping already done. We've got that proper structure in the nail. We just now need to do a little bit of cleanup and perfecting. So that's what we're going to do with our hand file. So we're going to come in straight along. Let me come back out here. We're going to come straight along our sidewalls, and I'm kind of filing at a little bit of a V shape. I'm not coming straight out from that natural nail. I'm bringing my file in a little bit so it tapers in that free edge to that really nice tight point. Okay. Now, something else to notice. Do you see where I'm positioning my thumb? Just like we were talking about earlier with that teeter-totter, with that seesaw. We want to balance. I don't want to have that finger wobbling back and forth, so I put more pressure right here at kind of the stress area, so that nail is not going to wobble. Same thing on the other side. I'll put pressure with my other fingers on the other side while I file that left side. Okay. All right, once we have those two sides fairly straight, I'm going to turn that nail back on the side. We're going to clean up our lower arches. And you guys notice I'm putting more pressure towards the free edge. I'm not coming back into that corner, okay? By putting your pressure with your file at that free edge, it's going to taper everything from the free edge, and then we're going to work back so that our file is coming straight out, and that's where it's going to get that little bit of product left in that corner, okay? All right. Again, you guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Keep getting all of our free education. Keep learning along with us. Whether you're a licensed tech or you're an enthusiast, or maybe you just stumbled on our channel here. Guys, welcome to our community. Please hit that subscribe button and join us. All right, same thing. And again, you guys, pressure on the top of that nail so I'm not putting extra pressure underneath when I'm filing. All right, straightening that out. Now, we're going to come around our cuticle area. We're going to taper everything up and around our cuticle. Again, getting that nice and flush down to that natural nail. So you can work up and around, or you can work down and around, whatever works for you. And then we're going to come through. So I was working right up in this area here. Now we're going to work up through that whole extension. So coming up and over, rounding out those edges. Because when you come in on those sides, you're straightening out that side. Now we want to round that up so that just flows up into that nail. Okay. All right, same thing on the other side. Round out that cuticle area, taper that down, and then we're going to come up and around and round out that free edge. All right, I think we're looking pretty good here. I'm going to look at this nail kind of from almost the side view. And again, you guys, you can see we've got a little bit of thickness right up through here, which is exactly what we want. I'm going to position my finger right under that free edge. I'm going to put pressure with my file right here at that free edge. And then we're going to just kind of file backwards to taper in that free edge. I'm not filing down any of the bulk here, so I kind of have my file, let's see if I can turn so you guys can see this, just at a slight angle here. It's not filing out that, that arch, it's just tapering that free edge. Okay? So just filing up through there. And then I'm going to take one last look down the barrel here. Looking good. Okay, we are going to take our hand, turn your client's hand around, and we're going to check the shaping from this view. So I'm just going to check my sidewalls, make sure everything is nice and straight on those sides. Straight over here. I think we're looking good. And this is where I'm going to really perfect that point. Now, you guys, if you want that really, really tight point where she's going to poke her eyeballs out, I mean, first of all, don't. But this is where you're going to really make sure that nail comes to that tight point. If you want it a little bit softer, you can definitely round out through that free edge. But today, you guys, for our New Year's nail, I'm going to keep that nice and pointed. Now, notice that I'm not really rounding over that point at all. I'm doing more of a straight file. That way, you're going to get that really tight point, okay? All right, let's look backwards down the barrel of the nail. This is going to show you any last little lumps or bumps that you may have missed from those other views. And it's really important to check your nails from all different views so that you can see everything that your client is going to see. Because you know she's going to look at her nails from every single view possible. So you want to make sure that you are catching all of those little high spots, low spots, and everything in between, getting everything to just blend really well all together. And as I'm filing, notice that I do keep my file in motion. So I kind of work from the right side all the way up and over to the left side. That way everything is going to get nice and smooth and nice and even. All right, I think we are about good. All right, you guys, what do you think? Are we enjoying the nail so far? If you are, and you know what time it is, you can put your little chant in the chat. Those of you that don't know what time it is, I mean, I don't know what time on the clock it is, but if you don't know what time it is top coat time, and we always do our little chant in the chat. But make sure that you've hit that subscribe button first, and then you can join our little chant in the chat. So again, just going to dust off that nail really well. I'm going to come back to our swipe, so that same swipe that we were using to cleanse that nail earlier. We're going to use a little bit of that, clean off that nail, and that's going to start to show you a little bit of what that nail is going to look like, but it's not going to do it quite justice until we actually get that top coat on. All right, so we've got our protein bond here. We're going to do one more coat of protein bond over this nail. Now, notice I didn't use a buffer. I didn't go through and buff or smooth this nail. I don't need to, because when we're using a gel top coat, which is what we're going to use, you don't need to buff and smooth that out, because that top coat is going to fill in any of those little scratch marks or anything like that. But adding a coat of that protein bond is really going to help to adhere that top coat, and it's going to help to also kind of fill in some of those little scratch marks, and it's going to really help to kind of increase the shine or enhance the shine of your top coat. And it's going to keep your top coat from chipping. So win-win all the way through. All right, you guys, now that I got that protein bond on, you can really start to see that sparkle in our free edge. You got a little bit of that metallic black color showing through. And then we'll use our Ultimate Finish top coat. And you guys know that this is one of my favorite top coats. I love it because it goes on super, super easy, and it cures for a 60-second cure. Fully cures all the way through in 60 seconds, so make sure that you are curing for 60 seconds. But once it is cured out, there is no tacky surface to wipe off. So it's always going to be completely set and dry once you're done curing, so there's nothing to worry about. So I'm going to just pop this in the light really quick for, I'm actually going to just do a 30-second freeze just so you guys can see the final look, and then I will do a finish cure on this once we're off camera. But I just want to pop that in there and freeze that into place. Let me show you guys what's going on here. So I've got my curing light over to the side here. So again, we've got that in there for a quick 30-second freeze. But make sure if you're working on real nails or if you're working on your trainer hand yourself, make sure you do a full 60-second cure on that top coat. So you guys, while that is finishing curing up, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit that like button. Show some love in the chat. We would love to hear what you think about the nails, or just throw some hearts in the chat there if you're enjoying our live stream today. Again, you guys, all of the products that I'm using here today are by Young Nails. Youngnails.com is where you can find all of these, and you guys can have beautiful nails for the new year yourself. So hopefully you guys enjoyed our design today. Camera, you guys, just does not do this justice. Those glitters are so sparkly. Let me see if I can get a better view here. Camera just doesn't do it justice, you guys. I'm loving the sparkles on this. It's going to be great for those holiday parties, those New Year's parties with all the confetti and that little black dress if you're wearing that, or whatever you're wearing for the new year. You guys, hopefully you got some gorgeous nails to match your outfits. So Happy New Year. We're not quite there yet, but I'm going to say an early Happy New Year, and hope you guys have a wonderful afternoon or the rest of your day. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we will see you guys next time.